Hello everyone, this is Dinsdale 1978 coming to you once again from Team MP, and tonight I'm going to do something a little bit different for you. You're going to see some gameplay in the background, but what I'm really talking about is reading and why it's important. I'm not going to go long-winded on this because I know you don't want to hear me go off on reading, but it's the truth. If you want to get anywhere in life, you're going to have to read, and you have to love reading. And you may think, why do I need to read anything? I can go and look on Wikipedia. Oh, wait a minute, I'm still reading there, but that's a whole other video. But I'm going to try and bring you some books you might want to read if you're interested in, say, first-person shooters. The two biggest first-person shooters out there right now, what are they? Battlefield 3, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3. So I'm going to talk about some books that, to me, relate to it, to those two games, and why I read them in relation to these games. And so you might find an interest in them, and then maybe expand your reading list and take out something else by these authors or related titles. So the first one is War by Sebastian Junger. Now this is talking about his time spent about 5 months, I think, of a 13 months deployment of the 2nd Battalion Platoon, the U.S. Army, and in Korengal Valley in Afghanistan. Now, some of you may recognize that name, may recognize that area, as it was featured in the movie, in the documentary movie, Restrepo. And that's exactly what we're talking about here. That book was the basis of that documentary. He took his writing and made that movie. So if you've seen that, go read the book. It's even more fulfilling about what's going on over there. I'm going to caution you, if you're a younger kid, you may want to ask your parents to either read this with you. And I'm saying younger, say 12 years to maybe 16, I don't know. Maybe I'm a little wrong there. Maybe I'm a little conservative in my views on that. But there are some things about life and death situations. There are some things about being absolutely crushed mentally by the service they have to do there. And it can be hard reading even for adults, even for people who've served and seen battle. So if you really want to know what's going on in the war, they want to know what real battle is like, what a real deployment is like for combat soldiers, go read this book. I literally read it in 24 hours, a span of 24 hours. I couldn't put it down. I really wanted to finish it. It's shocking, gripping, grotesque, and what's really happening, what happens to these soldiers as they go over there and have to serve in such a place for something they don't understand why they're serving. I'm not getting political on that at all. I'm not saying anything I fully want to say that right now. It's just a wonderful read about what modern military combat in the age of terrorism is like. So this may be a little heavy reading. I understand that. There's also a not counter book, but a companion book called Infidel, which was taken of some of the soldiers, pictures. It's a photo book of the soldiers. You might want to take a look at that. Now, let's talk about some fiction that relates to some of these games. That, to me, relates a lot to Battlefield, that authentic feel, the real nature of battle, as Battlefield tends to show it. So Call of Duty, what can we do for that? I picked a work of fiction, actually two works of fiction. It's going to sound strange, the one I picked, but the one is actually Battlefield the Russian by Andy McNabb. And I picked that because I wanted to see how it ties in the way we think of gaming, the way we think of storytelling and gaming through the single player. And it was a pretty good read. I have to admit, it expands the tale of the Russian side of the single player with Dima and a few of the other guys there, if you played the single player Battlefield 3, which is pretty good, I thought. But I digress. It's written a very action-oriented, very James Bond kind of feel, very spy games and military conflicts. So it really fits the tone of the game. The other book I read was called Meltdown. It's also by Andy McNabb, who did Battlefield the Russian. And it tells the story of the Watts family adventures, which is a short-running series for him that is centered around a special MI5 agent and his son, or grandson, I should say. And it has a feel to me of the single player of Call of Duty mixed with a bit of Uncharted, because what you see is their interaction as family. It kind of reminded me of Drake and Sully, mixed with, obviously they're not family per se, but it still had that nice feel of them joking around, having fun with each other, the other agents having fun with the grandson, who is obviously not a real agent. He's brought in as this, obviously finding his grandfather as an agent and knowing that. And not to give away too much, just because this is the end of the series, so if you're reading this one, you already know. But they're trying to track down this drug called Meltdown. And in doing so, they play a lot of spy games, very reminiscent of James Bond, and the dialogue is the same and how they go into covert operations. And a lot of the technical terms they use to describe what they're doing fit to me to what you see in Call of Duty, where they're calling out, tango over here and things like that. So in your mind, if you're reading with that accent like Price, I suppose it would sound like that. But anyhow, I digress. The book is a very easy read. It's very fun. Especially for younger audiences. Now, I would ask your parents before you necessarily, if you're a really young kid playing Call of Duty. I've heard them on there, so I know there's kids that are under the age of 10 playing Call of Duty. Shouldn't be. But If you are, maybe check that out with your parents or the librarian if you're at a public library, and make sure it's age appropriate for you. But if you're not and you just want a light read, go ahead and pick some of these up. They're not too bad, and there's no shame in reading juvenile fiction as an adult. They're just as good books in all reality. They may not be as deep as something like War or something even like the great classics, Great Expectations or something of that nature, but they're still helping you to get used to reading. If you don't know where to go to get some of these books, Amazon obviously is a great place to go. I actually downloaded one of them to my phone and read it through the Kindle application they have. Don't say you have to go buy them, because look, there's libraries around here. I got 2 of those books out of the 3 I read from my library that I work at. I work at a university library. So if I can get fiction at a university library, you can certainly get it where you live, because almost everywhere has a public library near them. If not, a bookmobile. If not, there's even paid services online. You can go and rent books, kind of like Netflix. And I know you're thinking, oh my God, there's no way I would ever rent a book from Netflix. But you need to do it. If you're a young person going through school and you're not reading while you're in school, listen, I'm telling you right now, you don't have to read all the classics in one sitting. If you find things boring, don't start there. Start with something you like to read. Develop that love of reading. You'll gradually fall into the classics as you get older, and especially if you get to college, you're going to need some of that knowledge. It only expands you as a person. It makes you a better person the more you read and know. And don't let anybody ever tell you that knowing things is stupid, uncool, or just plain wrong, because they are wrong.